the heart of the city, nestled between two towering, crumbling apartment buildings, was an unassuming door. It was painted a dull shade of gray and bore no number or handle, just a faint engraving of an eye in the center. People rarely noticed it, and those who did never seemed to remember its presence for long. But every so often, someone would find themselves inexplicably drawn to it. It began with Claire, a recent college graduate who had just moved to the city for a job she didn't want and a life she wasn't sure she was ready to live. On her walk home one evening, her gaze landed on the strange door. She didn't recall seeing it before, though she had passed this alley countless times. The engraved eye seemed to watch her, and for reasons she couldn't explain, she reached out and touched it. The door swung open without a sound, revealing a dimly lit room. It was small, lined with walls of dark wood that seemed to absorb the light. At the center was a single chair and a desk with an ancient leather-bound book resting on top. The air smelled faintly of lavender and mildew, and a soft hum, like the buzz of distant electricity, filled the space. Claire stepped inside, her curiosity overpowering her sense of caution. As soon as she crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind her. She spun around, but the door had vanished. The walls now enclosed her completely, and the room seemed to stretch slightly, as if breathing. She turned back to the desk and the book. The cover bore no title, only the same eye symbol etched into the door. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside, the pages were filled with moving, shimmering script that seemed to rearrange itself as she tried to read. Her own name appeared, followed by details of her life she had never shared with anyone. "Who wrote this?" she whispered, her voice swallowed by the room. The hum grew louder and the walls began to pulse. Shadows stretched across the room, forming shapes that looked almost human, but moved like ink spilled on water. One shadow approached, whispering in a voice that was both distant and intimate. "Write your dreams," it said. "Write, and we will make them real." Claire hesitated. The book seemed to pull at her, begging her to write. She thought of her dreams, the ones she had abandoned in the face of reality. Traveling the world, painting in a sunlit studio, finding love. Her hand moved on its own, gripping a pen that had appeared on the desk. As she wrote, the room shifted. Images of her dreams came to life around her, vivid and beautiful. She stood on a sandy beach, her paintings hung in galleries. A faceless lover whispered sweet nothings into her ear. It felt real, too real. The joy was overwhelming, intoxicating, but there was something wrong. The edges of the visions flickered, and the hum turned into a low growl. Claire tried to stop writing, but her hand refused to obey. The shadows multiplied, their forms twisting into grotesque shapes, eyes and mouths forming and disappearing. The room darkened, and the dreams turned to nightmares. The beach became a barren wasteland. Her paintings burned. Her lover's whispers turned to screams. "You can't stop," the shadows whispered. "You fed us your dreams. Now feed us your soul," she screamed, the sound lost in the cacophony of growls and whispers. She tore the book from the desk and tried to rip it apart, but the pages clung to her hands, binding her fingers. The shadows closed in, and the room began to collapse, swallowing her and her dreams whole. When Claire's roommates filed a missing persons report weeks later, no one could explain why her apartment was filled with strange drawings of a gray door and an unblinking eye. The door in the alley remained, unnoticed by all but the next dreamer desperate enough to open it.